my teacher said. Stay behind. But what she taught me wasn't in the book. Stay behind. The way she said it wasn't sharp or formal, not the way a teacher usually corners you at the end of class. Her voice lingered, softer, almost caught between command and hesitation. The rest of the room emptied in a scatter of chairs, sneakers squeaking against the floor, the hollow echo of the door shutting behind the last student. And then it was just the two of us. I tried not to look directly at her. She was leaning against the desk, arms folded like she was keeping herself from reaching for something. The fluorescent lights hummed above, but she hadn't turned on the side lamp in the corner, so the room carried a strange half-shadow, the kind that made silence heavier. You rushed through the assignment again, she said. Her tone was matter-of-fact, but I caught the way her hand brushed a strand of hair back from her face, slow, like she was buying herself time. Yeah, I guess. My words fell short. I wanted to fill the space with something clever, but all I heard was the faint tick of the clock on the wall, and the sound of my own breathing. She stepped closer, one hand resting on the edge of the desk, her nails tapping against the wood. You're not careless. That's not the problem. I swallowed. Then what is? Her eyes flicked to me, held a beat too long. I thought she'd explain, but instead she pressed her lips together, a small, unreadable smile ghosting across them before disappearing. I shifted in my seat. My leg bounced, my hand tightening on the strap of my bag. I should have left. I should have said sorry, and promised to do better. But I stayed. You think too quickly, she finally said, her voice quieter now. As if you're already somewhere else. Her words stung because they weren't wrong. She always caught things others didn't. It wasn't about the paper I turned in. It was about me. I'm here, I said a little too fast, and then regretted how defensive it sounded. She raised an eyebrow, not mocking, just watching. I hated how easily she could make me feel seen. The silence pressed in again. Her perfume, faint, clean, not sweet but sharp in a way that stayed in the back of my throat, made it hard to breathe evenly. I focused on the way her hands folded loosely now, knuckles pale, as if she was keeping herself steady. Do you want to be? She asked. The question dropped like a stone in water, rippling through me. It wasn't about class, not really. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. She let the moment stretch before stepping back, reaching for a red pen on her desk, twirling it between her fingers. The shift was small, but it felt like she was retreating, pulling the air with her. You can go, she said finally, almost too softly. But I didn't move. My chair creaked when I leaned forward. You asked me to stay. She froze, the pen pausing mid-spin. Her eyes met mine again, steady this time, no escape. For a second, I thought she might tell me it was a mistake, that I should forget it. Instead, she placed the pen down with deliberate care, her fingers lingering on it. The room was too quiet. The clock ticked louder, the lights hummed harsher, and still neither of us spoke. When she finally did, her voice was lower than before, almost fragile. Then stay a little longer. I stayed. Not because I had anything clever to say, but because the thought of walking out and leaving her alone in that dim room felt wrong. Or maybe it felt too final. She didn't look at me right away. Instead, she opened a folder, the red pen poised as though the papers inside required her attention. But her hand didn't move. Her gaze drifted somewhere just past me, unfocused, like she was thinking of something else entirely. You're young, she said after a pause, not as an insult but as a simple truth. I let out a small, awkward laugh. Yeah. I noticed. Her mouth twitched, the start of a smile that she quickly swallowed back. It matters. More than you realize. There it was, the line drawn, the quiet barrier she wanted me to see. I didn't push against it. Not yet. I leaned back in my chair, fingers knotting together in my lap. You talk like you've been through things. The red pen tapped once against the folder. She didn't deny it. You don't get to my age without carrying some weight. Her words hung there. My chest tightened at the thought of her evenings, Her house, silent except for the hum of an empty fridge, maybe a glass of wine on the counter, papers scattered across the table to distract her from how quiet it was. I didn't know if it was true, but it was easy to imagine. "Did you ever regret it?" I asked before I could stop myself. Her eyes flicked to me, sharper this time. "Regret what?" I faltered. "The choices. I waved vaguely, heat crawling up my neck. "Life." She studied me for a long second before sighing, shoulders softening. "Yes. And no. Some things I'd change. Others I wouldn't trade, even if they left scars." Her voice dipped on the last word. Silence stretched, but it wasn't empty. It was full, with things she wasn't saying, with things I wanted to. I found myself noticing details I shouldn't: the faint smudge of ink near her thumb, the line of her collarbone just visible where her blouse loosened, the way her hair had slipped free from its clip and framed her face in tired, perfect disarray. I looked away too late. "You do that," she said softly. I blinked. "Do what?" "Watch me. Like you're trying not to." Her words weren't accusatory, more like an observation. Heat shot through me, and I shifted in my seat. I wasn't." She leaned forward, cutting off my protest. Her hand landed lightly on my shoulder. Just the weight of her palm, warm through the fabric, was enough to freeze me in place. "You're not the first student to look," she said, her voice so close I could feel her breath at the edge of my jaw. "But it's different with you." Her hand lingered. My skin burned beneath it. I forced myself to meet her eyes. "Different how?" Her lips parted as if she had the answer, but then she pulled back, withdrawing her hand like it had betrayed her. She stood, crossing the room to place the red pen down on the windowsill, as though distance could undo what had just passed between us. "Because you don't know what you're asking for," she said finally, not facing me. Her words should have ended things. They should have sent me packing. But the tremor in her voice, the smallest crack she couldn't hide, said more than she wanted to. I stood slowly, the chair scraping lightly against the floor. "Maybe not. But I know what I feel right now." That got her attention. She turned, her eyes searching mine, the controlled mask on her face faltering. For a moment neither of us moved. Then, almost unwillingly, she stepped back toward me. Close enough that I caught the faint warmth of her body, the whisper of her perfume again. Her fingers brushed against mine as if by accident, but they didn't pull away. The briefest contact, skin against skin, but it was enough to send a jolt through me. We stood there, suspended, breathing the same heavy air, neither daring to close the distance, neither willing to let go. And then she whispered, barely audible, almost to herself, "This is dangerous." But she didn't move her hand. Her fingers still brushed against mine when the sharp buzz of her phone shattered the moment. We both flinched. She pulled her hand back quickly, fumbling for the device on her desk. The screen lit her face in pale blue as she glanced at it. I tried to read her expression, but she turned slightly away, shielding it. A silence stretched too long before she locked the phone and set it down face first. "Another student," she said quickly, though her voice was tight, uneven. I nodded, though I didn't believe her. The room felt smaller now, the air thicker, charged with something I couldn't name. She leaned against the edge of the desk again, but this time she was closer, almost too close. I could see the faint line at the corner of her mouth, the way her chest rose and fell more sharply than before. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered, but it sounded more like an admission than a command. "I don't want to be anywhere else," I said, the words slipping out before I could measure them. Her eyes locked on mine. A beat. Two. She didn't move away. Then, without warning, the door handle rattled. My heart slammed. We both froze, her eyes darting toward the sound. The handle jiggled once more, followed by a muffled voice. "Professor? You in there?" It was another student. Her hand shot out, gripping my wrist with surprising strength. "Don't say a word," she breathed, so close I felt her whisper against my skin. I swallowed hard and nodded. My pulse thundered under her fingers. The door rattled again, but this time the student gave up. Their footsteps faded down the hall, leaving behind the hum of the lights and the wild rush of blood in my ears. She let go of me slowly, almost reluctantly. Her palm left a warmth on my skin that lingered. That? She started, then stopped, pressing a hand to her forehead like she was fighting off the weight of what almost happened. That can't happen again. I stepped closer without thinking. But it already did. Her breath caught. For a second, she looked like she might push me away. Instead, she stayed rooted to the spot, her back against the desk, me just inches away. The space between us collapsed. I could see the faint smudge of mascara beneath her eye, the shadow of exhaustion mixed with something else, something alive. She glanced at my lips, then quickly back to my eyes, as if scolding herself. I leaned forward, just slightly. Enough to test the air. Enough to feel her breath meet mine. She didn't move. Tell me to stop, I whispered. Her throat worked in a swallow. Her hand lifted, hesitated in the air like she might push me back, but then her fingers grazed the side of my neck, featherlight, not stopping me at all. The world narrowed to that touch, the electricity of her skin against mine. And then, as if snapping awake, she pulled her hand back and stepped aside, breaking the spell. We can't, she said, firmer this time, though her voice trembled at the edges. I stood there, my heart hammering, my body still leaning toward her. Then why does it feel like we already did? She looked at me, really looked, and for the first time, there was no mask. Just raw, unguarded conflict. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Instead, she reached past me, her hand brushing against my arm as she grabbed the stack of papers from the desk. She clutched them too tightly, as if they could anchor her. But her touch lingered, intentional, longer than it needed to. And in that stolen second, either of us pulled away. I couldn't sleep the night after. Every time I closed my eyes, I replayed the moment her hand brushed my neck, the heat of it still clinging to me. Every thought circled back to the way she'd said we can't, with her mouth, but not with her body. The next day, I lingered after class again. I told myself it was for help, for guidance, but even I didn't believe that anymore. She stayed seated at her desk this time, glasses perched low as she scribbled notes. I hovered near the door, waiting for her to acknowledge me. When she finally looked up, her face tightened, a warning. You can't make a habit of this, she said. I shut the door anyway. The soft click made her flinch, just slightly. I'm not here for the class, I admitted. Her pen stopped moving. Don't say that. It's true. She set the pen down slowly, folding her hands as though she needed something solid to hold her together. You're reckless, she whispered. Maybe. But I see you. My voice cracked on the last word. Her breath hitched, barely audible, but I caught it. She stood, pushing her chair back, and for the first time, she didn't put space between us. She came closer, each step deliberate, until she stood right in front of me. You think you see me? She asked. I nodded, throat dry. Her hand lifted, fingers trembling slightly as she brushed a lock of hair away from her face. But instead of letting it fall, she held it out, like she wanted me to notice the fragility in the gesture. I reached up, hesitant, and tucked it behind her ear for her. My knuckles grazed her cheek. Her skin was warm, softer than I'd imagined. She closed her eyes at the touch, just for a second, then opened them again, sharper now, glassy with something between fear and hunger. This is wrong, she said, but her body leaned toward me, betraying her words. I don't care. My voice was low, right at her ear. Her breath caught again, this time audible. The scent of her perfume wrapped around me, clean and faintly citrus, but beneath it was something warmer, something that was her. Don't do this, she murmured, but her hand slid to my chest, fingers splayed, holding me there instead of pushing me away. I covered her hand with mine, pressing it closer, letting her feel the quick thrum of my heartbeat. Then tell me to leave. Her lips parted, trembling. She didn't. The air between us throbbed with silence. My forehead nearly brushed hers. I could feel the faintest ghost of her breath on my mouth. You'll regret this, she whispered, the words unsteady. Not half as much as I'll regret walking away. Her hand curled against my shirt, clutching the fabric. Her eyes searched mine, desperate, torn between giving in and holding back. For one suspended moment, everything tilted toward the inevitable, her lips a breath away, her body leaning against mine, my hand rising to her jaw. And then, a knock. Sharp. Loud. We jumped apart, hearts hammering, the fragile spell shattered. The door handle rattled, a voice calling. Professor? Are you still in there? She pressed a finger to her lips, panic flickering across her face. My chest heaved as I backed toward the corner, half hidden by the tall shelf of books. She drew in a shaky breath, smoothed her blouse, and called out, 1 minute! But before she turned away fully, her eyes locked on mine again. Raw, burning, undeniable. And in a voice low enough that only I could hear, she whispered, Next time. I won't stop. I avoided her for 2 days. Or maybe she avoided me. Either way, the silence stretched longer than it should have. Every time I passed her door, I caught myself slowing down, waiting for a sign, a glance, anything. But her blind stayed drawn, the narrow strip of light beneath the door the only proof she was inside. By the 3rd day, she called on me in class. Not with her usual clipped sharpness, but with a softness that carried weight. My name lingered on her lips a second too long. Heads turned toward me, and I forced myself to answer, though my throat was dry, my voice uneven. When class ended, I stuffed my books into my bag quickly, ready to escape the tension that wrapped around me like wire. Stay behind. The words again. This time firmer. I froze. The students filed out, chattering, laughing, oblivious. When the door clicked shut, it was just us, again. She didn't move from behind the desk. Her hands rested flat on the surface, pressing down like she needed the weight to hold herself steady. They know, she said quietly. My chest clenched. Who? A colleague. Maybe more. Her eyes lifted to mine, haunted. That knock the other night wasn't just chance. Someone saw. Or heard. I don't know. My pulse roared in my ears. What did you tell them? Her jaw tightened. Nothing. But the way they looked at me. She trailed off, swallowing hard. It's not just my reputation on the line. It's my career. Everything. I stepped closer without realizing it, the scrape of my shoe on the floor too loud in the silence. Then let me take the blame. Her eyes flashed. Don't you dare. She came around the desk quickly, so close her shoulder brushed mine as she passed. You don't understand. They'll believe it's me, not you. They'll call it predatory. Wrong. Immoral. She stopped, back to me, her hands clenched at her sides. Her body trembled, just slightly, as if she was holding herself together by force. I wanted to reach out, to place my hands on her shoulders, to steady her. Instead, I whispered, But it isn't wrong. She spun then, her eyes bright with something between anger and longing. She stepped so close I could feel the heat rolling off her. Don't you see? That's exactly why it is. Because I. She stopped herself, biting the inside of her lip, her breath sharp. Because you what? My voice cracked. Her gaze flicked to my mouth, then back to my eyes. Because I want it too. The words dropped between us, heavy and irreversible. For a second, either of us moved. Then she shook her head quickly, as though trying to pull the confession back. But her hand betrayed her, reaching, trembling, fingertips grazing my arm before she snatched them away. The air in the room thickened. I stepped forward, closing the inch of space she tried to create. My chest brushed hers, the contact sending a shiver through me. You can't pretend anymore, I said, my voice low. Her breath came fast, uneven. And you can't know what this will cost me. I raised my hand slowly, carefully, brushing her hair back from her face. My knuckles skimmed her cheek again, softer this time, deliberate. Her eyes fluttered shut at the touch. I don't care about the cost, I whispered. Her lips parted, trembling, but she didn't speak. Instead, she leaned just slightly into my hand, the smallest surrender. Then, a sudden vibration cut through the silence. Her phone again, buzzing violently against the desk where she'd left it. She jolted back, breathing hard, staring at it like it might detonate. The screen lit up with a name she didn't want me to see. Her hand hovered over it, trembling. "Who is it?" I asked, though I already knew it mattered. She didn't answer. She silenced the call with a single swipe and turned back to me, her face pale but her eyes burning. "We don't get to hide anymore," she said, her voice low and fierce. And then she stepped closer again, so close that her breath mingled with mine, her hand resting against my chest as if daring herself not to pull away this time. The decision was written in the set of her jaw, and the heat of her body pressed near mine. This was the point of no return. The room was too quiet. Her hand on my chest, her breath mixing with mine, every second stretched long, unbearable. "You know what this means," she whispered. Her voice trembled, but her body didn't move away. I nodded, though my throat had closed. Her eyes searched mine, frantic, as if begging me to understand what even she couldn't put into words. "If I take one step closer—" She stopped, her lip caught between her teeth. "There's no undoing it." The space between us pulsed like a live wire. "Then don't step back," I said. My voice cracked, desperate. She exhaled sharply, almost like a laugh, but there was no humor in it. Her fingers curled into the fabric of my shirt, clinging. "You make it sound so simple." "It is simple." I covered her hand with mine, pressing it flat against my racing heart. "This is what I want." Her face softened, and for the first time, her guard faltered completely. I saw it, the loneliness she tried to bury beneath composure, the years she'd carried herself alone. She blinked quickly, as though the weight of being seen was too much. "I've spent my whole life building walls," she whispered. "And you walk in and don't even notice them." Her confession stole my breath. I stepped closer, closing the final inches until her back met the desk. The wood groaned softly, her body pressing against it, against me. "You don't need walls with me," I said. Her eyes closed. My hand rose, cupping her jaw, thumb brushing the curve of her cheek. She leaned into it instinctively, a fragile surrender. The silence was suffocating, filled only with the sound of our uneven breaths. Then she opened her eyes again, and something inside her broke. She surged forward, not a kiss, not yet, but her forehead pressed to mine, her hands clutching my shirt like she was drowning and I was the only solid thing left. "I shouldn't," she murmured, her lips ghosting against mine. "But I can't stop." Her words lit me on fire. I tilted closer, my nose brushing hers, the world narrowing to the point where restraint no longer existed. But then she froze. Not pulling away, not this time, just holding there, trembling, suspended at the edge. Her breath was ragged. "If we do this, it's not just a moment. You understand that?" I nodded, chest heaving. "I don't want just a moment." The air cracked between us. And then it happened. Her lips brushed mine, feather-light, a trembling contact that barely counted as a kiss, but it shattered everything. The weight of weeks of silence, restraint, fear, all undone in that single, fragile touch. She pulled back a fraction, her eyes wide, searching mine for regret. I gave her none. Instead, I whispered, "Now you know." She let out a shaky laugh that turned into a sigh, her forehead still pressed against mine. "God help me, but yes. Now I do." We stayed like that, clinging to each other in the heavy quiet, knowing the world outside hadn't changed, the risks, the eyes, the consequences still waited. But inside that room, in that suspended moment, everything was clear. We had crossed the line. And neither of us wanted to go back. We didn't speak for a long time after that first kiss. We didn't need to. The silence wasn't heavy anymore, it was full, alive, humming with what we both finally admitted. Her hand was still gripping my shirt, her forehead resting against mine. When she finally leaned back, her eyes searched mine, not with fear this time, but with a quiet certainty. "This isn't going to be easy," she said softly. I shook my head. I don't need easy. Her lips curved in a small, tired smile, the kind that came from honesty, not habit. She reached up, fingers brushing my cheek. The touch was tender, steady, grounding me in a way nothing else could. I'm older than you, she whispered, almost like she was testing whether the words still mattered. I know, I said. And I don't care. Her thumb traced the edge of my jaw. You should care. People will talk. They'll look at us like. She stopped, biting her lip, eyes dropping. Let them, I said. My hand slid down, finding hers. Our fingers laced together, the simple act stronger than any argument. They don't see this. We do. Her breath caught, and for the first time since this started, I felt her truly let go. Her shoulders softened, her chest rising and falling slower, calmer. She leaned into me, resting her head against my shoulder. I wrapped my arms around her, pulling her close. Not hungry, not rushed, just holding her, feeling her warmth pressed against mine. The kind of closeness that said you're safe here. You make me feel foolish, she admitted, her voice muffled against my shirt. I kissed the top of her head, lingering there. No. Just human. We stayed like that until the clock ticked louder, reminding us of the world outside. But neither of us moved. Her hand squeezed mine tighter, as if daring me to let go first. I didn't. Finally, she lifted her head, her eyes glossy but clear. So what happens now? I thought about all the complications, her career, the whispers, the risk. But when I looked at her, none of it outweighed the truth sitting between us. No, I said, brushing a strand of hair back from her face. We stop pretending this doesn't matter. Her lips parted, trembling just slightly. And then she leaned in again, this time pressing her mouth to mine fully. No hesitation, no retreat, just warmth, steady and real. The kiss deepened only for a moment before she pulled back, resting her forehead to mine again. She smiled, soft, unguarded, radiant. I think, she said, her breath mingling with mine, we just rewrote the book. I laughed quietly, holding her hand tighter. For the first time since this began, it didn't feel like a secret. It felt like a beginning.